Just beyond the grounds of the University of Nottingham, visible from many of its student halls and residences, is the estate of Woollerton Hall. Dating back to the 1580s, its mansion sits among 500 acres of natural parkland, and its paths and shortcuts have long been trodden by generations of students. But as beautiful as the estate appears, there is a darkness lurking here. There are those who wander the grounds as you or I might, only to vanish in the blink of an eye. There are shadows that hang from the towers at night, figures who watch from the windows. There are sounds and sights that defy explanation. There are stories, and this is one of them. Good evening. I'm Alex Bell, and I'm here at Lincoln Hall at the University of Nottingham to tell you about the Lady of Woollerton Hall. Lady Charlotte Willoughby was an unusual girl. In a time where a woman's place was in parlours and tea parties, young Charlotte was more often found wandering the grounds of her home at Woollerton Hall, with mud up to her knees and her hair loose and tangled. She swore like a sailor, preferred boots and breeches to skirts and slippers, and was friendlier with the stable lads and swineherds than with any other girl of her own age. As hard as Charlotte's family tried to change her, she refused to be tethered, wanting only to run wild and free. When she was a child, this was somewhat permissible. But as the girl grew into a woman, her antics began to seem less like innocent play and more like a kind of madness that must be stopped. So it was that her family decided that something must be done. Though they loved their daughter, they could see that her wild nature would only bring trouble to the estate and shame upon their reputation. They announced a coming-out party for Charlotte's 16th birthday, where she would officially be brought into the light of civilized society and take her rightful place as a respectable lady belonging to a distinguished family. Charlotte would not go along without a fight. As the decorations for the party went up, Charlotte tore them down. As her maid laced her corset, Charlotte cut the ribbons. Even as her family all but dragged her down the stairs, she was kicking and screaming and fighting to be free, as she had always longed to be. But there was no getting out of it. Under the watchful eyes of her family, as well as every socialite in town, Charlotte had no choice but to dance, drink, and make polite conversation for hours and hours. All the while, though, she longed to be free. Finally, near midnight, she took her chance. A door left open. Her father's back turned. Charlotte hastened from the room and ran up the stairs as fast as the constricting skirts would allow. On the landing, however, she hesitated. Perhaps her corset was laced too tight. Perhaps her head was spinning from the wine. Whatever the reason, Charlotte, for once in her life, paused. She leaned against the banister, and she fell. It isn't known who found her lying broken upon the staircase, or quite what happened after. We can only imagine the screams, the horror, the agony Charlotte felt as she lay there, half in death on the stairs. But when she woke several days later in her room, it was to the most dreadful news she could have ever imagined. Her back was broken, and she would never walk again. For the first few years after her fall, Charlotte had entertainment enough, with plenty of books and games, visitors and well-wishers, and the very best medical care. But as time went on, and it became clear that Charlotte would never recover, the attention began to wane. The visitors stopped coming, and there in the shadows, Charlotte's anger grew. Her wild life of freedom had been snatched away from her, and that was an injustice she would never forgive. It was a dark fury she carried with her for 20 long, dark, isolated years, until she died alone in the very same bed. But Charlotte's story does not end there. Many centuries after her death, a member of staff at the hall was cleaning in Charlotte's old room. She had been feeling strange all morning, as though someone was in there with her, just out of sight. And as she leaned over to unplug her vacuum cleaner, just above the spot where Charlotte would once have lain, a pale hand came from nowhere and grabbed her around the throat. Choking and screaming, the girl pulled free and fled the room, pausing just long enough for her colleagues to see the clear imprints of long fingers on the neck. Today, visitors to the hall commonly report horrible feelings upon the staircase where Charlotte fell. Feelings of cold, vengeful fury and desperate frustration. There's a sense of always being watched, of being envied, of being hated. For many say that Charlotte still lingers in that room that became her prison, still pines for the life that was taken from her, still seethes with the unfairness of it all. Who knows if it's true? All I can warn you is to take heed if you should ever find yourself there, for if Charlotte's spirit still haunts the place, it is by no means at peace.